Hello everyone, welcome to this new Pandora FMS workshop. My name is Kevin and I will guide you through it. While the last one was dedicated to network discovery, we are dedicating this one to server monitoring. That is, we are going to see, and well, not necessarily in this order, what software agents are, how to install them, how do they work, okay? We're going to see how to deploy them from Pandora FMS console. This is installing them remotely. We also will take a peek at the Pandora remote configuration feature, and we'll learn to use agent plugins. Okay. Before we start, we'll wait for a few minutes, okay, to give some time for more people to connect. Please let me know if you can hear me properly. Okay, thank you, Rafael. He says I sound good. Okay, we'll wait for a few minutes for, as I say, more people to connect, and we will start in, let's say, 2 minutes. Okay. Alright then, let's get started. Again, for late arrivers, my name is Kevin, and I'm guiding you through this server monitoring workshop. Okay, these are the topics that we will discuss. So feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat, and I will do my best to try to answer them. Okay. So, okay, first things first. What is a software agent? Pandora FMS software agents are lightweight clients that we simply install on our servers and workstation to monitor them. Okay, these software agents are compatible with several operating systems: Windows, Linux, Solaris, even Android devices. Okay. The thing about these agents is that they use native commands to retrieve the information. Okay. If they are installed in a Unix server, for example, they will use bash or KSH. If they are connected, installed in a Windows server, they will use CMD, PowerShell. Okay. This helps us to get information quicker than well, other monitoring devices. Okay, so at this workshop we will see how to install Windows and Linux software agents. It's a very simple process in both cases, you will see. So here, let's start with the Linux ones, because these are the ones more used. So we have two packages here. Okay, I hope are okay. I think you can see it better now. We have two different packages. We have an RPM package and we have a tarball file. Okay, we can install the agent with either of these packages. What changes is how to install them. Okay, if we use the tarball file, for example, we just have to uncompress the file. Pandora FMS agent Unix, in this case, is this one, and as you can see, it uncompresses a directory. Okay, this Unix directory. We just have to enter that. Whoop. Unix, and here we have this file, Pandora agent installer. This is the one that we need to use to install the agent. So / Pandora agent installer -- install. Okay, when we do this, the agent will be installed with when we create all the files that are required, and we will need to start the service. Before we do that, let's take a look at how to install the agent with the RPM file. Okay, we have two options. We can just run this RPM -I, which is for install, and just specify the RPM file. Okay, but chances are that we are not fulfilling the requirements that we have for these packages. Right, so we need to make sure that everything is installed. In this case, we don't have some packages. There you go, failed dependencies. So we need these three files. We can either install them independently, alright, or we can use packages like yum, for example, to install that. Yum install Pandora FMS agent Unix. Okay, so if I use this, it will try to resolve the dependencies that we are missing. Okay, perl css-log, perl YAML, and unzip. Okay, let's click on yes to see if it does it properly, and there you go. You saw that it's a very short process. We can do it in a few seconds. Right, so right now we have the agent installed, but we have to do something else to get it working. Okay, so with a file editor like Vim in this case, let's open this file, etc pandora agent.conf. This is the configuration file of the agent, in which we will need to specify the, among others, the server IP to which we are going to send the information from this agent. Okay, this is the server IP of our Pandora server. So in this case is this one. Okay, we will see some of these options later, but before we do this, let's enable the remote config. This feature is very important. We'll see later. Just sorry. That's better, I think. So this remote config option has to be enabled for the most part of the features, the enterprise features, to work in the agent. Okay, so let's close this, and we need to start the process. This server that I'm using is a CentOS, so we have systemctl. Okay, start Pandora agent daemon. Okay, we can use this, or we can use etc init.d Pandora agent daemon start. Okay, let's start that, and the agent is now running. Okay, that's fine. So this will send information. We'll start sending information to our Pandora server. Okay, and we are going to see that we are getting all the information, including some default monitoring. Okay, before that, let's take a look on how to install a Windows agent. Just a minute. Here. So we pick the language, and we have this wizard. Okay, you only have to click next, agree to license agreement. Okay, this is the folder in which the agent will be installed. Here, all the configuration files, including the one that we've configured in Linux, will be stored. Okay, let's click on install. Will take a few seconds. There you go. And same as with the Linux agent. Let's put the IP address for our server. In this case, I'm using the IP address, but remember that you can also use the DNS name if you have one. Okay. So we click on next. We enable the remote configuration. All right. And that's it. Okay, we can run the agent from here directly if we don't need to look for the service to install it, to run it. Okay. So let's not do this. Let's just finish here, and I will show you how to start and stop the service in Windows. Here in the taskbar, we can go to the administration, to the task manager, okay, and look for Pandora FMS agent. Okay, you see it's stopped right now. Sorry, it's in Spanish. We started, and it's working. All right, so here we have a Pandora FMS console. So these configurations that I've made have configured the agents to send information to this Pandora FMS environment. Okay, you see the IP address here. So if I go here in the resources, I would see, well, this one has sent information first, but there it is. So how does this work? The agent, when we start the process, it starts to monitor some things, like for example this we have here: disk used, memory, network usage. All right, these modules we have here are by default, okay, in the agent. So the thing is that in the configuration file, sorry, we have set these modules, and they run and create an XML file, which is what we send to Pandora to be processed. Let me show you an XML file. I have one here. Right? This is the file that Pandora agent sends to Pandora server to be processed. Okay, we have the different modules here. For example, the CPU load, TCP connections, disk use, C, like we are using here, for example. Okay, so this is the format. This is an XML format, and here at the top we have the header, in which we have information about the agent itself, the device that is running the agent. We have the agent name, which is an identifier for Pandora to understand that this is the agent that is sending the file. The alias, which is the descriptive name that we've set to it. And then we have some other information like the version of the agent, the IP address of the system, and so on. Okay, the OS. Right. This is sent through a tentacle protocol to Pandora FMS server. Remember that tentacle protocol is 41121 by default. They send the information via tentacle to the Pandora FMS server, and we process the data and create these agents. Okay, this is the agent from my Windows agent that I've created, that I've just enabled. Right. Now, if you're familiar with Pandora FMS's community version, you will know that in order to create modules for the agents, like these ones, for example, you would have to create that executions to create modules manually in the configuration files of the agent. That means SSHing to the device and configuring the pandoraagent.com file. Not anymore. Okay, with enterprise version, we don't need to do that. We can do that everything from the console. You see this option here in the management section, remote configuration. If we click here, you see that we are getting the same file as we were modifying earlier for Linux. Okay, so well, this is for Windows 1, but it's basically the same. Okay, so everything that we want to do, we can do it from the console. And by doing from the console, I don't mean going here, going all the way down and creating my modules. Okay, I can do it, but there's no need to do that. You can also use this option, modules, and create the modules from here. You can even load the basics in order not to have to create all this stuff. Okay, so that is this configuration is the remote configuration feature. This is what we enabled earlier that I mentioned that I would explain later. It's this token here, remote config. Okay, if we have an enterprise version in our Pandora server and we enable this, we will be able to configure everything here. So in this file, now that I'm here, there are several options you can play with, right? But well, the most important ones in these agent files are server IP. Okay, what I was saying before, it has to have the IP address or the DNS name of the Pandora FMS server, okay, to which you're going to send the information. This option, temporal, for example, works for the debug option. I will show it in a minute. But it basically the agent, when we create when it creates the XML file, it creates that file in a folder before sending it. Okay, so this is the folder when we create that file. This is also the folder when we can search for debug information if we enable the debug mode, which is, by the way, here. Okay, just look for debug. All right, and we will be able to get the XML files that the agent is sending without them to be sent. Okay, we can check if anything is wrong or something like that. Right. Some other things that we can get here is the interval here. This token is very important. This interval is the amount of time between executions of the agent. This means that if we put 300-second, in this case, interval, 5 minutes, the agent will send information each 5 minutes to Pandora FMS server. Alright? This is the most used interval, but well, you can get this a bit lower if you want to get information more often, or increase it to get information less often. Right? Agent name and agent alias. This is well, the identifier that I was talking about earlier. You can force to have a specific identifier if you want to here in Pandora console, or you can force the name of the agent that we are going to create. In this case, for example, my the host name of my PC is kevpc, right? So it got it automatically. But if I wanted to force it to a different name, I would use this option, my name, for example. Right? It's also useful. Of course, the remote config option, and last but not least, secondary server. Okay. Chances are that some of you are not going to use this, but it's a good thing to know. We can have several Pandora FMS servers, right? So this option allows you to configure the agent to send information to not only one Pandora FMS server, to send information to 2 Pandora servers, okay? Whether it's when the first one, the principal, the main one, fails, okay, with this option on error, secondary mode on error, or always, okay. This can be also interesting when we have several Pandora servers. Okay. So, apart from this, we have 2 other interesting options that I want to mention. One of them is proxy mode. Proxy, here it is. Right? I have an image to show that. Here it is. Okay, so let's imagine that our software agents are in an isolated network. Okay, this here is an isolated network, and they cannot reach a Pandora FMS server directly. For example, we need to send the data over the internet, or with a VPN or something alike. Okay, so instead of allowing traffic for each of these devices to send information to Pandora via the internet, okay, which will be a huge hassle if we have a lot, okay, in terms of security. What we can do is configure a single agent to send the information to Pandora. That way we can just configure the firewall and everything here in this agent, and this one will work as a proxy of these, in this case, 4 agents. Okay, these agents are configured to send information to this agent here instead of Pandora FMS server, and this simply resends the information to Pandora FMS server. Okay, so in terms of what you can do with those agents, is exactly the same as they pointed directly to Pandora FMS server, but the difference is that they take a jump. okay, a jump point before getting to Pandora. Okay, that's this option, proxy mode, right? Of course, in this case, you would need to uncomment the option to get it working. The other option I wanted to mention is broker agent. There it is, broker agent. This works as follows. Let me show you. Here it is. So broker mode allows us to simulate, let's say, a number of software agents, all right? This means that a single software agent can be shown in Pandora as many. Okay, and each of them can have their own configuration, their own modules, and everything. This is useful, very useful, for example, when we have a, let's say, a very important server in which we have many applications that we need to monitor. Okay, we have a web server, we have a database, we have lots of things, right? So instead of managing a single agent with maybe hundreds of modules, what we can do is handle a handful of agents with only dozens or even less modules. Okay, that's very useful for managing. And also, it can be useful if you want to monitor a network device in which we cannot install a software agent, obviously. For example, a switch. We cannot install a software agent there. Well, we can install that agent in a server, okay, in a Linux server or a Windows server that has access to that device and make all the checks from there. So we are actually simulating that device to have the software agent installed. Okay. So let's get rid of this. So we have this configuration file of the agent, right? We can see, well, if we have any module, for example, here, this one. We have modules. We have the configuration tokens that we've seen before, right? And we have some of these plugins, which is the next topic I want to discuss. Let's talk about plugins. So a plugin is basically a script. Okay, it's a script built to get information about well, anything that we want to monitor in an agent. Can be disk information, can be memory information, a service, a specific application that we want to monitor, a web server, a database, whatever. Okay, these plugins are very important in Pandora because with a single execution we can get lots of information. All right, we don't need to create a module for each of those metrics that we want to monitor. We can create a plugin that creates those metrics automatically, right, dynamically. So for example, we have these df% plugins. All right, let me show you in Linux because it's easier to see. Let's clear this up. And we have user share Pandora agent plugins. Whoop, sorry. There you go. Okay, so let's take a look at this, for example. If we run this, you see, it is actually creating modules in XML format. Okay, we are getting, in this case for Pandora DF, it is creating a module for each of the disks that are connected to our system, or file systems in this case. All right. So we have percentage of usage of each of the volumes are connected. Root is overlay, SHM, temp FS. Okay, And as you can see, it is XML format. This means that when we run a script, when we run a plugin, which by the way you can do this way with this method, module plugin and the execution, or go in here, agent plugins, you see, we can get our plugin executions here, right? When we do this, these plugins insert this XML information in the XML file of the agent, right? So we are going to get the agents, the modules that the agent is creating, and we will not know, in terms of managing, I mean, which ones are the plugin. Okay, for example, this one, these three actually are coming from a plugin. Actually, the same one that I've run. Okay, so with a single execution, we are getting information about all the drives that are connected. Or, for example, this one, this auto discover, this is a different plugin, and it tries to find from a list of services which ones are active in a system. In this case, we have these two. But well, if we add an Apache server, for example, or a MySQL, that would be reflected here in a module that is showing us the status of that service. Alright, so this is how the plugins send information to Pandora, but how do they work? How we can get to this? Alright, well, as I said earlier, these plugins are scripts. Alright, basically scripts. And that means that you can build a plugin with any scripting language. Okay, Bash, Python, Perl, PowerShell, it's up to you. Alright, the only requirement for a plugin to work, and the Pandora understands the information, is that the output is this one. It's like this. It's an XML. Alright, so you can create your own plugins, but we have some plugins already developed, okay, and deployed by default. These ones are developed by default with the agent. Okay, and we have a module library. Okay, let's take a look at it. Right, this module library allows you to find well, lots of plugins to get information out of, I would say, MySQL, for example, Oracle databases, Nutanix, lots of things. Right, you have lots of categories here. My web servers, a network. Okay, we have policies as well here. Here we can get lots of plugins. These plugins, some of them are simple, but some others are very interesting, like the one for VMware, for example. We have pretty interesting modules. Okay, but well, the most important thing that I want to make sure right here is that plugins are just scripts, and you can build your own. Okay, apart from all the ones that we have here. All right. So let's get let's go on with the topics. We have something else that I wanted to mention, and all right, we've covered agents, how to install them, how to configure them, how to configure the modules, how to configure the plugins. Right, but you know, this has to be this needs software agents to be installed in a system. All right, this means that if we want to monitor something, we need that the agent that we want to monitor is either reachable through network, and we can monitor that agent with network protocols, as we saw in the last workshop, or that we have software agent installed in that system. We can do that manually, as we just saw. All right, we install the agent here with the RPM and the exe for Windows. Okay, with this process. But if we have many agents that we want to install, this can be a bit harsh. Right? There's a lot of information. There's a lot of devices that we need to install the agent in. So for that, we have the next topic, the agent deployment. Right? This is a discovery feature. Okay, so let's go to discovery section again. Right? And we have this option here, host and devices. Okay, let's click here. This option, by the way, this agent deployment option, was included in version 737, if I remember right. Right? And for it to work, you need the EL7 version for Pandora server. Okay, that's the one for CentOS and Red Hat 7 systems. Okay, the other one will not work because of dependency issues. So I have here this deployment center in which we already have one agent that I've been testing before. Okay, but before we get to this, there are two things that we need to do. Okay, before we get to this step. On the one hand, we need to upload the agent installers to Pandora. Okay, so Pandora, what it's going to do is that we connect via SSH or Active Directory credentials to the devices. Okay, and from there we are going to download the software agent from Pandora console we have here, and we are going to install it. Alright, so first things first, we need to upload the agent installer. This is done in this configuration menu. Okay, configuration, software agents repository. Let's click here. I do have one already, but in any case, I will add a new one because it takes just a few seconds. Here we need to specify if this the target operating system will be Linux or if it will be Windows 1. Okay. The architecture. Okay, this is going to be used automatically depending on the architecture. And this is the identifier of this version. Okay, as I have a 745 already here, let's call it differently. For example, V745. Okay. Now we choose the installation file, which is around here. Okay, it's already set. I'm using the tarball file for this. Click on OK. It says success. Alright. Alright. Didn't take much time. So we have this software agent uploaded to this repository. Okay. So we need to go to the next step. We must configure the credentials for Pandora to connect to these target devices. This is done in here, profile section, manage agent groups. Okay, here in this option, in this section, we have this credential store. Okay, so we click here, and by the way, it warns us that database encryption is not enabled. So something that we strongly recommend is that at least in the table that gets this information, the credential store, that we configure the encryption of the database. Right? The encryption can be done in different tables, so it's not something that it's not something that will get a lower performance or anything out of Pandora. Okay, so we configure the encryption and create the credentials. Okay, we click here on add key. Let's put an identifier on it. For example, workshop credentials. All right, we can configure this to be available only for a group of servers or a group of people. Okay, as you already know, probably, and if not, I will say you now. Pandora manages everything with groups, with the permissions. All right, so users that have permissions over databases, for example, if we configure this in databases group, they and only they will be able to use this credential. Okay, people with different permissions will not. That's important. So okay, let's put in group all. This means that everyone can use these credentials if they have the permissions for it, obviously. And let's call it my user, for example, Kevin, and my password. Okay, successful. All right, so we have these two credentials already. Once we have these two steps fulfilled, the agents installers uploaded to Pandora and the credentials created here in console, we can go to the host and devices agent deployment section again. All right, and here we have some different options. We can scan for targets, which would do sort of a network sweep. All right, I will see it in a minute. Add a specific target, or load targets with a CSV file. Okay, let's click here. Scan for targets. So here we can configure Pandora to perform a network sweep to, well, with the credentials that we configure, right? And what it's going to do is try the different IP addresses of that network with these SSH credentials, SSH in this case. Okay, if they work, they are going to be added to this list here for us to deploy the agents in the agents that, well, in the devices that we want to have those agents installed in, right? So we put the network. I'm making this up. 1 right? 1 and the network mask. Right? We can choose a different Pandora server if you want. If you have more than one Pandora server working. And we choose, as I say, the credentials to try this scan with. We choose the agent version that we want to install. Okay, let's choose this one. And the target server IP. This is the parameter that we were seeing before in the configuration file of the agent. Right? If I go back, this is the equivalent to this token here, server IP. Okay, so if we need to, well, if we are looking for installing this agent and that it sends the information directly to this server, okay, to this Pandora server, we need to put the IP address of this server here, 8044. Okay, so there you go. Let's click on scan. It says here, this is important, alright? It schedules the network task. This means that we are going to see this task in the discovery section, but as soon as it ends the scanning, in fact it already ended, as soon as it ends the network sweep, this task will be automatically deleted. Alright, so they will disappear from there, and we will get all the information here. The list of the agents that have responded to the network sweep. Right. In this case, as I've made the network up, there's no there's no more agents, but well, that will work that way. If we click on add target, it is basically the same, but only for, well, specific targets. Alright, instead of performing a network task to get information out of a network, we simply add a register here to this list and try to deploy the agent there. Let's use a different IP address, 8044, for example. This is the this is my own server. Okay, the server there, the Pandora. Let's choose here the operating system of this target. In this case, we're using Linux. Okay, but you see that we have many options here. Okay. Linux architecture is a 64-bit, and the credentials that we've set. Okay. Well, this is going to fail because it is already created. Let me put a different one. For example, this one. Okay. We choose the agent version that we want to install, same as before, and target server IP 8044. Okay, we click on OK, and you see that it's added to the list. Alright, even if it doesn't work, right? Even if the credentials that I've used doesn't work, like I think in this case because I made the credentials up. Oh, I have to deploy. They are added to this list whatsoever. Okay. Same as we click here and load targets. This is if we want to add a list of agents, right? We don't want to perform a network sweep and try credentials. We don't need that. We already know which agents do we want to add, which are the IP addresses, the operating systems, the architectures, and so on. Alright, you can prepare a CSV file with this format. Okay, and well, choose the separator. We upload it, and the targets will be added here too. Okay, so alright, let's try it. This one I know that will fail because the credentials that I created are not fine. Okay, But this one is going to try to update the system. Okay, it's going to try to update the agent. It's going to deploy it. We can choose which agents do we want to try the deployment. If we don't want to try it in all of them. Okay, let's deploy. It's scheduled. All right. So in this case, oh yeah, I changed the credentials earlier. In this case, you see that we are getting an error. Okay, failed to deploy, sort in here. In this case, the problem was that the well, this agent is already configured, and I didn't configure to be installed again. But let me just a minute. Here, this is the interesting one. Okay, if it's not working, it would show an error message like this one, for example. Error accessing this this IP address. Okay, resource temporarily unavailable. This is because this IP address is not available at the moment. All right. In this case, this device is powered off. Right, so it won't work. But the thing is that we can keep this here and can keep the last error so we can fix it and try it again later. Okay. Let's try just a minute to try and make this work. Let's go here and credential store, and here I'm going to put the password. Okay, so there we are. If we add it again, well, it's going to fail. If we add it again, successfully deleted. Let's use this one. This is the package that I created earlier. Blah, blah, 8044 Linux carrying credentials. These are the ones that I made working, and 44. All right, so we have this again. When we deploy the agent, the process is, as I was saying before, the console tries to connect to this agent via SSH, in this case, because it's a Linux. Okay, with the credentials that I've put here. And if I've configured the credentials right, which I'm not sure about actually, if I put the credentials right, yeah, deploying. Right? In a few seconds, it will show the version that has been installed. There you go. Okay, it worked. So we have this agent version, and the agent version that we expected to have is this one. Worked fine, right? So not only you can deploy agents from here, but also you can update the agents in this menu. Right, this is a very useful feature. All right, so I think that covers up mostly everything I wanted to mention. Do you have any question regarding anything that we've seen up to this point? I know that there is a bit of lag in YouTube streaming, so I will wait for a few minutes. In any case, while we wait for questions and so on, I hope this has been useful, has proven useful for you. Personally, I think that the plugins along as with the remote configuration are some of the most important features in Pandora management, right? Because it helps you to do lots of things from the console instead of going to each device manually and having to configure everything there. All right, and this deployment center, this is a rather new feature, and I was actually looking forward when we first knew that this was going to be added to Pandora, because this is something very, very useful in installations. So, okay, I'm getting messages already. Everything looks good so far. Okay, perfect then. So let's get this workshop as ended. All right. The next workshop will be dedicated to services, reports, and visual consoles. All right. So we hope we found this workshop useful for you, and I hope we see you on the next one. So this is Kevin from Pandora, and see you around.